Hello guys and welcome to this part 3. Hello guys and welcome to part 3 in a series of videos that I'll be putting out this week, where I break down all the fights taking place this weekend at UFC 235 from a betting perspective. So if you haven't already checked out part 1 and 2, I will link them in the description below. And by the time today's video is done, we would have got through 9 fights. Now this is Caesar. He is my 8-year-old Shih Tzu, and he would like to apologise for being a total dick in yesterday's video. He's really sorry. He said he's going to watch some Tony Robbins motivational videos and work harder to be a better person in future. Isn't that right, Cez? So he's going to try and behave himself in today's video. So off you go, mate. There he goes. So the first fight that I want to... Oh, actually, no. I do want to talk about something else just very quickly before we go into the first fight. So after I put out yesterday's video, in the comments, Josh August asked or said that he's curious on my take on the Walker and Zabit fights. So I did reply to Josh here and said that I would be covering both those fights in today's video, but with the way that the videos are, I'm trying to keep them as short as possible. So I don't want to jump into too many complex fights in the same video, otherwise the videos end up being really long. And I am getting better at it. I am making, you know, the breakdowns more concise, and I didn't want to cover both those fights in the same video because I have quite a lot to say on both of them, which meant this video would be super long. So I am going to leave the Zabit fight till tomorrow's video. So I just wanted to say sorry to Josh for that, but I will try and get tomorrow's video out pretty early. Like I say, I am getting better at this stuff, guys. I'm getting into a flow now. I've only been doing it for about 2 weeks, but I'm starting to get a bit more confident, starting to get the content out sooner. You know, by this time last week, I don't think we had part 3 out, and I don't think we had covered this much of a card. You know, by the time you watch this, we've only really got 3 fights to cover, and you know, UFC 235 still probably 48 hours away, something like that. So we're doing good for time. So if you do like this video, guys, please remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the thumbs up button below. Also, please like part 1 and part 2 of this video, and also part 4, which I'll be putting out tomorrow. And if every video that I put out this week gets 50 likes, I'll be doing a bonus live stream video on Friday or Saturday, where I will be basically hunting for prop bets for every single fight on this card, and I'll also be answering your questions in the live chat on, you know, on anything that you're curious about for the fights coming up this weekend. So if you don't know what a prop bet is, it's just basically highly specific bets that you can place. For example, if you wanted to bet on Robbie Lawler to win by knockout or TKO at 5.20, that would be considered a prop bet. So if you do hit the like button on this video and I get 50 likes on every video that I put out this week, I will be doing a hunting for gold video. I try and find juicy prop bets on every fight. I'll live stream that on Friday and Saturday, and I'm also thinking about doing a giveaway in that live stream video. So please hit the thumbs button if you want all that kind of good stuff to go down. So the first fight that I want to cover in this video today, in part 3 of this video, is Cody Garbrandt versus Pedro Munhoz. And you're probably wondering why I am playing you a road safety advert from the UK from back in 1994. Well, there is actually a good reason, and the reason is this road safety campaign in the UK was basically called Speed Kills. And Speed Kills is kind of like, it's a great like catchphrase, it's a great slogan which really sums up fights like this, because in Garbrandt and Munhoz you have 2 guys, you know, that like to throw down, they like to stand in front of their opponents, but there is a massive speed difference between the 2 guys. And after researching this fight, I really do believe that that could be the deciding factor between both of them. Now, Pedro Munhoz has made big improvements to his striking over the last few years, but Cody Garbrandt's hand speed and footwork is just in a different league. What you'll often see from Pedro Munhoz is he'll walk his opponents down quite flat-footed, and he'll almost like pause in front of them before letting his hands go, and he keeps his hands up very high, he has a nice tight guard, but as he's coming forward with his hands up, his opponents can kind of like pick him apart and tee off on him. And against someone that hits as hard as Garbrandt and with someone with hand speed as fast as Garbrandt, that's not a good thing, because by the time Munhoz actually starts to let his hands go, Garbrandt can circle out of danger and be out of range. Now, what I would say about this fight is that depending on what version of Cody Garbrandt we see, it could either be a very easy fight for him or a very tricky one. Because if you go back and watch his last 3 fights, you know, the 2 TJ fights versus the Dominic Cruz fight, you'll see him use very different strategies. Now, in his fights against TJ Dillashaw, there was obviously a lot of bad blood, there was obviously a lot of hatred, and these guys wanted to hurt each other. But the mistake that Garbrandt made in that fight was that he stood right in front of TJ Dillashaw and exchanged. And unfortunately that cost him and he got knocked out twice. And I think that the most concerning part about that fight, I think the most concerning part about those losses for me was, even though Garbrandt was doing great in the first round of the first TJ Dillashaw fight, he actually almost finished Dillashaw in that first round and definitely won that first round. He lost that fight because he got overconfident, reckless, stood right in front of Dillashaw and got caught with a bomb. So you'd think that in the rematch, he would have made an adjustment, tightened that up, looked to not stand right in front of Dillashaw, you know, go back to the same footwork, movement and defense that he used to beat Dominic Cruz, and try and use that strategy against Dillashaw to be a bit more defense-minded, a bit more cautious, a bit more tactical. And he didn't. You know, in the second fight against Dillashaw, he lost in pretty much exactly the same way. So that is a concern. So what I would say about this fight is, if we're betting on who has the better chin in this fight, I would absolutely bet on Pedro Munhoz. You know, Munhoz is extremely tough, extremely durable. You know, if you look back at his record, he has had 20 pro fights. This will be his 21st pro fight, and he has never been finished in 21 pro fights, which is kind of unbelievable. So he's got an amazing chin. He can definitely take it. Obviously, Garbrandt hits very hard, but yeah, we know that Munhoz can definitely take it. He's got a good chin. Whereas Garbrandt, we have seen him, you know, obviously KO'd twice against Dillashaw, and he just looks a lot more fragile than Munhoz, is what I would say. So if Garbrandt comes into this fight, you know, really confident, really aggressive, and wants to stand in the pocket and bang with Munhoz, I do think it's a bad idea. I do think Munhoz can win this. Even though Garbrandt is faster, more technical, and better defensively than Munhoz, if these guys are exchanging shots, there is a very, very good chance that Munhoz could catch him with something big and knock him out. And another big problem with Pedro Munhoz is that Munhoz will not give you time to recover. He's very good at going for the kill. As soon as Munhoz hurts you, he's very good at pouncing and locking in a very fast submission to finish the fight, or he's very good at putting you in a bad position and unleashing ground and pound and finishing you by TKO that way. So Cody Garbrandt really needs to watch himself in this fight. He cannot afford to get overconfident. And one of the things that does concern me about Garbrandt is that he does seem to love a scrap. He is a pure fighter, a fighter's fighter, an absolute warrior. And I have seen signs in some of his past fights that when he eats a big shot or he gets hurt, it's almost like he wants to get it back. And that's a dangerous kind of mindset and a dangerous kind of weakness to have against a guy like Pedro Munhoz, because Munhoz has got the chin to hang in there with him, and he's also got, you know, a good enough amount of power in his hands to really hurt Garbrandt. So that is a concern. So from a betting point of view, really difficult to cap this fight, because we've seen two different sides of Garbrandt. We've seen the side against Dominic Cruz, which was very tactical, very intelligent, great performance where he played the role of Matador, used Cruz's forward pressure against him to just pick him off, pick Cruz off and counter strike as Cruz came forward. If he uses that strategy against Pedro Munhoz, I think he's going to absolutely dominate. My only concern, like I say, is if he gets dragged into a brawl because Munhoz lands something big on him and he wants to get it back and he starts standing right in front of Munhoz in the pocket and exchanging. So if we look at the current odds on this fight, a couple of days ago, I would have told you that this fight was a definite pass. But as we can see here, over the last sort of week or so, the odds have improved quite a lot on Cody Garbrandt. This time last week, almost to the minute. You know, we're only 15 minutes away. It shows there. That was Thursday, 18:45. There, and we are now Thursday, 18:30. So he was, you know, almost a week ago 1.52, and now his odds have improved right the way up to, you can get him on 5 dimes at the moment at around 1.74. So a couple of days ago I would have told you to pass on Garbrandt, but now things are getting interesting, because even though you can only really get him at 1.74 on really crappy betting websites like Sportsbet and 5 dimes, usually 5 dimes is a good indicator as to where the odds are going to move. So if the odds have declined on 5 dimes, then they might not decline straight away on all the other betting sites, but chances are they're going to go that way. And if the odds show signs they're going to improve on 5 dimes, normally you see the odds start to improve on all the betting websites over the next few hours or days. And that's because 5 dimes is one of the, well, it is the largest betting website in America. Obviously, America is the biggest betting market for a sport like mixed martial arts, so they lead the dance, and 5 dimes are also the website that releases the odds before anywhere else, even though they are a terrible website and a terrible business, and I would not recommend using them. So let's pop that into the implied probability calculator. So normally at this stage in the video where we evaluate a fight, we break it down, we look at it from a betting perspective, we'd take the average odds and we would talk about whether a fight is worth a bet based on the average odds. But I'm not going to do that in this instance, because the average odds of around about 1.68 for me do make Cody Garbrandt a pass. But I'm going to talk about this fight from a betting perspective at his odds on 5 dimes at 1.74, because I believe the other websites over the next few hours and days will catch up to 5 dimes, and that is the way the odds will move across the board. So I'm just going to make an exception here. And what I would say at these odds is that Garbrandt is a borderline bet for me. I can't, because in order to bet on a fighter, I like to get at least a 5% margin over the bookies. So I don't like to be really, really highly specific on where I cap a fighter, you know, what percentage chance I give a fighter of winning, because there are so many variables in MMA. I like to use approximate guesses. But, and not variables, but also, you know, things we can't predict, completely unforeseen circumstances. Like, for all we know, Garbrandt could be coming in with 2 broken hands, or he could be sick right now, or he could have a bad weight cut, etc., etc., etc. He could have broken up with his wife. His son might be ill. All these things can affect a fighter's performance. That's why I don't like to be really specific with capping, because really it's all guesswork anyway. But in this instance, I do feel in fights like this, it is beneficial to really drill down so that we don't miss out on good betting opportunities. So I can't really cap Garbrandt having a 70% chance or better of winning this fight, because of how reckless he is, how easy it tends to be, or how easy it has been in some of his fights to suck him into wild exchanges, and how tough Munhoz is and how good his chin is. I think that if we see Garbrandt come out with a chip on his shoulder, overconfident, you know, looking to get a big win back under his record after the embarrassing losses to Dillashaw. Not embarrassing as they were embarrassing, there's no shame in losing to Dillashaw, but I would imagine that with the build-up to those fights, those losses probably would have hurt Garbrandt's ego quite badly. So I'm not throwing any shade at Garbrandt, he's a fucking beast. But they were probably a little bit embarrassing for him because of all the build-up. You know, he had the pressure of carrying the weight of his gym on his back with all the drama between, you know, Faber and, you know, Dillashaw and all that other stuff. So those losses were probably weighed quite heavily on Garbrandt. So I'm concerned he might be coming in this fight looking to get it back. So I can't cap him at 70% or better, just because if he starts to stand flat-footed in boxing range with Munhoz and starts to throw down and exchange bombs, I do trust Munhoz's chin a lot more. And remember, we're looking for at least a 5% margin on the betting sites. But at the same time, I can't cap Garbrandt having a 60% chance of winning this fight, because I think he's got better than 60. I don't quite think it's 70, but I think it's better than 60. And I think it's better than 60 because, like I say, if Garbrandt shows up with an intelligent game plan and performs exactly like he did against Dominic Cruz, we know he can do it. He's done it before. If he fights like he did against Dominic Cruz, I think he will dominate. You know, you've only got to go back and watch Pedro Munhoz's fight against John Dodson from almost a year ago. That took place on the 3rd of March, so almost a year ago to the day. And the thing that gave Munhoz so many problems against Dodson was that as Munhoz was coming forward, flat-footed, high boxing guard, the footwork and movement and speed of Dodson gave him really big problems. Munhoz just couldn't get into positions where he could cut the octagon off long enough to land anything significant on Dodson. So Dodson's speed, footwork gave him some huge problems. And obviously we know Garbrandt's footwork and speed is probably better than Dodson's, and he also hits a hell of a lot harder, and his boxing's also much more technical. So that's why I think Munhoz that's why I think Garbrandt deserves to be capped at better than 60%, but not quite 70%, if that makes sense. So probably call it around about 65%, which at odds of 1.74, it is a decent bet, to be honest with you. But at odds the problem is odds everywhere else right now are around about 1.68, which, even though there is a bit of a margin there, I don't love it as much. I definitely don't love it as much. So what I would say about this fight, guys, is, like I say, most betting websites, the odds on most betting websites usually follow the odds on 5 dimes. So always use 5 dimes as a measurement for where odds are moving, up or down. And since the odds appear to be improving quite dramatically on 5 dimes at the moment, I would say chill at the moment, keep an eye on these odds. And if you have got 5 dimes, bet Garbrandt at these odds right now. If the odds reach this point on the betting website that you use, then take him. But at odds of 1.68, 1.70, don't love it so much. There is still a margin there. There is that 5% margin. But to summarise, when I bet on a fighter, I like to get a really good deal for my money. Like, you know, when you go into a shop and you see a product, like maybe you see like a really nice sweater or a really nice jacket, and it's got a price tag on it, and when you go up to the price tag, you really like the item of clothing, and the price tag is way lower than you thought it would be. You're like, Jesus, that's a good price, that's good value, I'll have that. That is how I view bets. I like to get a really good price for the fighters that I bet. And at odds of 1.68-ish on Garbrandt, I don't think that's a great price. I don't love it. Whereas at odds of 1.74, even though it's not an amazing price, I do think it's fair, and I would take that. So that is that fight out the way, guys. Next fight up. That was a long one, so we'll keep this next one short. The next fight that I want to cover is Gina Mazany against Macy Chiasson. So this is Chiasson's first fight since winning Season 28 of The Ultimate Fighter. She beat Pani Kianzad in the finale back in November. And straight off the bat, I do not want to waste your time. Similar to the Anthony Smith versus John Jones breakdown a couple of days ago, I just want to be clear that this is a great fight for Macy Chiasson. This is a very good stylistic matchup and a fight that she should win easily. She is better than Gina Mazany everywhere. She's also much bigger than her. Chiasson is absolutely enormous. She might be the biggest female fighter in the UFC, and when I say big, I don't mean big as in muscular or strong or tall. He's at it again. He needs to go read some Tony Robbins books. I do apologise, guys. Caesar! There you go, that's control. But like I was saying, Chiasson is a very tall, long female fighter. She might be the tallest girl in the UFC. But one thing I like about Chiasson, a lot of tall, long fighters, abnormally long and tall fighters for their weight class, usually have bad takedown defense, but Chiasson's takedown defense is really good. Her grappling is a very decent level. Now, she's got a decent size advantage, like you can see here. She's 5'9". Gina Mazany is only 5'6", which is about average for the bantamweight division, to be honest with you. But Chiasson will have a big size advantage over her. Now, what I would say about Chiasson is she is more skilled than Mazany in every single aspect of MMA. She is bigger than Mazany, heavier top game, just all around better than Mazany, ticks every box. And to be honest with you, she doesn't really have that many weaknesses. She's got decent takedown defense, reasonably good striking for a female bantamweight division. Very heavy from top position, very nice Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and she is able to inflict an enormous amount of damage from ground and pound, mainly in part because of her size. It enables her to posture up, create way more distance between her and her opponent, and will rain down harder shots just because of the increased distance that she's got to uncork her shots, being so much taller than most of her opponents. So, what I would say is, unfortunately, Chiasson should win this fight easily. Unfortunately, if you're Mazany, I guess. Fortunate if you are Chiasson. But the problem is that everything I've just said is reflected in Chiasson's odds. If you look here, her odds on most betting websites at the moment is around about 1.20, giving her an implied probability of 83%. And Mazany really has an enormous mountain to climb here. I do expect Chiasson to dominate, so I would not entertain a bet in Mazany at all at any odds. But the problem with betting a fighter like this, you know, even putting them in a parlay, is in order for me to bet on a fighter at these odds, they basically have to have no way to lose. Because to get any value there, you have to cap them at like 88 to 90%. And when you take into account, you know, bad judging, disqualifications, getting injured in the fight, bad weight cuts, you know, injury, sickness going into the fights, you know, everyone can have an off day. I just can't bet on a fighter like Macy Chiasson at these odds. And I do have one concern with her. It's not enough of a concern to make me entertain a bet on Mazany, but it is a legitimate concern in that if you look back at Macy Chiasson's career, she has fought at featherweight or lightweight. So featherweight 145 pounds, featherweight 145 pounds, featherweight 145 pounds, featherweight. And then back to her amateur days, she competed at lightweight, 155 pounds. You know, there are so few 155 pound female fighters out there that there isn't even a 155 pound division in Bellator or the UFC, even though the PFL are trying to get it going this year with Kayla Harrison. But, like you can see here, right the way back, all the way through her amateur and pro career, all these fights, she has never competed at bantamweight before. So against Gina Mazany this Saturday, UFC 235 will be her bantamweight debut at 135 pounds, and at 5'9", she is going to be a very big bantamweight. And having never made that weight cut before, you never know what might happen. She might have a brutal weight cut which could impact her performance. So for me, this is a clear and obvious pass because of the fact that she's cutting to bantamweight for the first time ever. There is a possibility that she could lose, and like I have just said, in order to bet on any fighter at these odds, they have to have basically no way to lose. And this is Chiasson's first fight at bantamweight, so I don't feel like she is completely bulletproof. Moving on, hopefully that one was a quick one. The next fight that I want to cover is a fight that I have got a lot to say, but I don't think it will take that long to get through it. Another one like yesterday, guys. 2 pages of research for this next fight. And it is Johnny Walker against Misha Cirkunov. So in yesterday's video, I was talking about how Ben Askren was getting super hyped up from the MMA media. How everyone was saying, you know, Askren's the next big thing in the welterweight division, could be the next, you know, dominant guy in the division. And I said to you, you know, based on his performances in one, that was not going to happen. I'm like 95% sure that when Askren comes up against guys like Woodley, Usman, Covington and Maia, he's going to struggle very badly. And he could also struggle very badly against guys like Till and Thompson and Masvidal. And Ponzinibbio, I think Ponzinibbio would kill him. But what I would say is that Askren, to some degree, does deserve the hype because he is an elite level grappler. He he's obviously competed at Olympic level wrestling, and he's very, very good. He's very, very dangerous when he gets his opponents down. There's a lot of weaknesses in his skill set, which will make it difficult, which I believe will make it difficult for him to get guys down in the UFC. But when he gets guys down, he is devastating. Now, I don't believe Askren deserves the hype that he has received, but I can see where he's coming from. But when it comes to another hype train on this card like Johnny Walker, when you see guys in the MMA media, I don't want to call out any names because I don't want anyone to think I'm being a dick and throwing shade at anyone, but a lot of people in the MMA media are calling, basically selling Johnny Walker as a next big prospect in the UFC's light heavyweight division. And when I hear people say that, that just signals to me that they have not done their homework at all. To be honest with you guys, when I hear people hyping up Johnny Walker, I roll my eyes at it because they haven't done they have not done their research on this guy, and that is annoying. I can understand why you'd rate Askren highly and hype him, but based on Walker's past performances, I have no idea what people are seeing in this guy. And let me show you what I mean, because I'm not going to make bold statements like that without backing it up. So if we go into this fight from back in March of last year, so almost a year to the day, against Makoviak, you will see some huge weaknesses in Johnny Walker's skill set, which unfortunately up until this point no one's been able to exploit in the UFC. But if we just hit play here, remember that this fight that I'm showing you here took place just under 1 year ago. So bear in mind now, think to yourself, how much could Walker really have improved since this fight against Makoviak? So let's take a look. The fight starts, and Walker, long, tall, aggressive striker, comes out, loads of footwork and movement like we've seen for him in his first 2 fights in the UFC. But watch what happens very, very quickly. Makoviak knows that Walker's dangerous striking, so straight away he is going to shoot a takedown and try and put Walker on the ground. Now, I've just paused this here because I just want to show you what happens in a moment. Makoviak has shot in on a takedown here. He's gone for a double leg takedown, but doesn't really have anything at the moment. You see he's in deep on a double leg, but Walker's working for the right underhook here. He can start to work for the left underhook here, but the big mistake that Walker's making in this position is, even though he's got his back tight to the cage, look at how close his legs are together here. And because his legs are so close together, that's going to enable Makoviak to get his arms around, basically around Walker's body or legs, and complete that double leg takedown. If Walker was using his legs to create a much wider base against the cage, it would be much harder for Makoviak to complete this takedown. But watch what happens. Easily puts Walker on his back. Easily. Like, Walker practically jumped to the ground. Take a look at this, guys. So Makoviak shoots in real time. Straight away just throws him to the ground. And that was largely because Walker got caught so cold and so stiff and so rigid against the cage. Straight away here, Makoviak uses his left hand to tie up Johnny Walker's right hand and starts working his game from top position. Now, one thing you'll notice in this section of the video is that Johnny Walker is extremely weak off his back. Walker's not in a terrible position here, to be honest with you. His back isn't flat out on the canvas. He's got his back tight to the cage. You know, Makoviak doesn't have control of his legs. You know, when you see, guys like Khabib tie up his opponent's legs, which makes it difficult for them to clear their legs and use the cage to stand back up. Walker is in a strong position to clear his right leg here. His left leg's already clear. From this position, he can start to work his way back to his feet. But instead, he has absolutely no idea what to do. And he just kind of sits there, enables Makoviak to control his body and keep dragging him away from the cage. And this is pretty much the story of the first round, with Walker completely clueless off his back. I will keep skipping through this. Doesn't really make any attempt to get back to his feet. And if we skip further ahead, we're now 2 minutes into the fight. We'll get to this point and Makoviak starts to get his ground and pound game going. But here you can see Walker quite happy to stay on the ground. He's close to the cage. Go and watch this fight, guys, on YouTube. Walker makes absolutely no attempt to get back to his feet, and here you can see easily Makowiak stepping over into half guard. Here, watch, he pushes down Walker's right leg here. Watch, he's going to push it down any second now, which will enable him to transition into half guard. And now it's a much more difficult position for Walker to be able to use the cage to stand up in. If Walker wasn't able to stand up in the positions where he had his legs free earlier on in this round, he's not going to be able to stand up when Makowiak's taken half guard here. So easily past guard, and he's just going to chip away and rack up points against Walker with some top control. So if we skip ahead a bit, you can see Walker absolutely nothing on his back, no idea how to improve his position, no idea how to use the cage to stand back up. At this point, Walker almost recovered guard, but Makowiak pushes the right leg down again, and again easily takes half guard back. Basically, Makowiak is having his way with Walker on the ground, and from this angle, much better. You can just see how bad of a position Walker's in here. Shoulders flat on the canvas. Basically, Makowiak on top of him, cruising to an easy win here, with Walker making no attempt to get back to his feet, no idea how to improve his position. So then if any moment now, the referee will stand them back up, which is a really bad stand up, because when fighters are in guard and the ref stands them up, I can understand. But Makowiak was trying to improve his position there. He did manage to drag Walker's back away from the cage and move him away from the cage and create enough space to be able to work into half guard on Walker's left side. Makowiak did a good job of getting his body in between Walker and the cage, so that Walker, if he did want to use the cage to stand back up, would have been much more difficult for him. So Makowiak was working to improve his position, but the referee chose to stand him up, which was a really good stand up. But they're back up now. This is just over 3 minutes into the fight. And you can see here that one thing I will say, I'll just pause it here, is notice when notice when we saw Johnny Walker in his first two fights in the UFC against Justin Ledet and Khalil Roundtree, he comes out with a flashy ring walk, you know, loads of footwork, movement, explosion in round one, loads of flim-flam, looks very explosive, very fast. Now that he's been on the bottom underneath Makowiak for 3 minutes, and he's felt the weight of his opponent on top of him, and he knows he's not invincible anymore, look at how flat-footed and nervous Walker looks. Walker's confidence is completely gone. Nowhere near as light on his feet, nowhere near as explosive, doesn't look anywhere near as dangerous as he has done in his first two UFC fights, and also as light on his feet as he looked at the beginning of this fight, literally just 3.5 minutes ago, guys. But watch what happens now. I'll rewind it a bit further just so you can get it in real time. They're back up, only because the referee stood him up. Walker throws a lazy overhand right, telegraph, no setup. Makowiak ducks under and takes him down easily. Walker with absolutely no takedown defense at all. Didn't make Makowiak work for it at all. Easy double leg takedown. And a very, very, very bad position for Walker to be in. Again, on his back, completely clueless. No idea how to defend himself or work his way back to his feet. On to page 2. So then he gets dominated from this top position for the end of the round. And Makowiak ends the round in top position to clearly win the round. Now we go into the second round. Now again, watch how much more flat-footed, and notice how Walker just isn't as confident in his body language as we've seen in his last two fights in the UFC, or how he looked early on in this fight. Much more flat-footed, much more nervous, nowhere near as dangerous, nowhere near as explosive. And you can basically guess what's going to happen any second here. Makowiak shoots in another double leg takedown. Walker does the right thing on this occasion in creating a wide base. Remember I said just a few moments ago he kept his legs too tight together, which made the first takedown Makowiak shot in the first round easy to complete, but this one much more difficult with this wide base, but not enough to stop Makowiak from completing this takedown. He basically sits Walker down easily. So then again, dominated from top position for the next the next few minutes, until we finally get to this point in a fight. You know, again, Walker just dominated from top position, completely clueless off his back. Makowiak cruising here from half guard, and Walker looking completely out of his depth against a guy like Makoviak, who's not exactly high level. And then we finally get to this point in the fight where, for some reason, maybe Makoviak just has a lapse in concentration or gets bored, I don't know, but for whatever reason, Makoviak decides to let Walker off the hook, and at this point, just stands back up and lets Walker stand back up. Walker doesn't get back. Look, I mean, look here, guys. Look at this point in the fight. You know, Makoviak gave Walker a little bit of space to stand back up here. Walker didn't have the energy to stand back up. So look at Walker's body language there. Kind of just lies back. Look how his head goes back as if to say, oh, for fuck's sake, I missed my opportunity to get back up. Look at that there, guys. Literally, Walker had a little bit of space to get back up, but just gives in. Oh, fuck, I couldn't get back up. Watch here, watch his head. Walker's completely demoralised how he goes to his back. But then for whatever reason, Makoviak just decides to let Walker stand back up. Watch, Makoviak just gets back up here, and then that was a huge mistake because Walker lands a knee, KOs him. And the vicious ground and pound for the finish. So super frustrating. Makoviak could have just cruised in top position for the remainder of that round. Been going into the third round, clearly up 2 rounds. Probably would have been able to take Walker down easily again in round 3 and win an easy decision. But this is a game of inches. Makoviak made one mistake by allowing Walker to stand back up, and it cost him big time. So guys, you do not need to be an expert in MMA or an expert in grappling or martial arts or striking or a fucking NASA scientist to see that based on that performance, Misha Cirkunov should be able to drag Johnny Walker to the ground and absolutely dominate. There is absolutely no question about it. That performance from Walker was terrible. He showed that he has no takedown defense and he's completely clueless on the ground. Now, the problem with this fight is Walker is obviously very dangerous standing. We absolutely know that he's dangerous standing. You just saw what he did to Makoviak, and obviously his spinning back fist win over Justin Ledet in his last fight and his KO win via elbows against Khalil Roundtree shows that if he lands on you, he has the power to put you away and he's dangerous. But his grappling deficiencies are so bad that there's just no way on earth that I would ever bet on Johnny Walker against any other able-bodied professional mixed martial artist. He's a terrible bet, which is interesting because his odds have been declining. So the UFC hype machine is in full effect. Like, MMA is one of those interesting sports, right? Where it's kind of, in a little way, similar to WWE, where a fighter's popularity and how good of a talker they are and how charismatic they are does actually influence the odds. Like, what fool, some idiot opened this line with Johnny Walker being a 1.47 favourite. Get the fuck out of my face with that. If you would have just taken an hour out of your day to research Johnny Walker, probably wouldn't even have taken that long because 3 out of his last 4 fights have ended very quickly. If you would have just gone to the YouTube and searched for Makoviak versus Walker and watched that absolute shower of shit that lasted for 8 minutes, you would have seen that Walker's takedown defense and ground game is a joke, and he shouldn't be a 1.47 favourite against any able-bodied professional mixed martial artist at 205 pounds. Yes, he's had some exciting highlight reel wins against Justin Ledet and Khalil Roundtree, but at the end of the day, on any given day, anyone can land a flash KO, and Walker's takedown defense and ground game, or lack of ground game, ain't going to cut it in the UFC. But since then, his odds improved, which means people realised how bad he was, improved up to 1.77. Obviously, money was coming in on Cirkunov, and then since Sunday, his odds have started to decline again. So people are actually drinking the Kool-Aid, people are actually listening to the MMA media, and people are actually thinking that Johnny Walker is a decent fighter, which is bloody madness to me. Now, what I would say about this fight, guys, is I read the comments, and there is no doubt in my mind, right, that at odds of 2.30, Cirkunov is a good bet. No doubt about it, guys. Because based on what we've just seen, he should be able to drag Walker to the ground and dominate him on the ground. No one can argue that. Based on what I've shown you, there is not an analyst, someone in the MMA media, there's no one on earth that can deny what I've just showed you. There is no fucking way Cirkunov should be an underdog in this fight. At absolute worst, you would have to cap him at 2.0, which would make him, you know, give him a 50-50 chance of winning this fight. But let's be honest, based on what we've just seen, this is not a 50-50 fight, guys. Now, what I would say is, I read your comments, and some people obviously have very, very low risk tolerance. Some people hate losing. They cry over it. They can't take it. What I would say is, with a fight like this, there is a legitimate chance that Johnny Walker could walk out into the centre of the octagon, throw a spinning wheel kick that lands right on top of Cirkunov's temple and KOs him dead in 10 seconds. If you're not comfortable with that, do not bet Cirkunov in this fight, because I'm telling you right now, Johnny Walker can KO him. And some people are big babies and they can't handle losing. At the end of the day, if you can't understand that you can still place a good bet and it lose, if you can't understand that, then you probably shouldn't be betting on MMA in the first place. But what I'm saying to you is, Cirkunov is a great bet at these odds. No denying it. He should not be an underdog based on what I've just shown you. But obviously, there are potential signs that Cirkunov might be a little bit chinny. His knockout loss to Ozdemir was probably the weirdest KO I've ever seen in my life. Ozdemir caught him with like a really weak glancing blow. And normally when you catch someone with a glancing blow, it like wobbles them or stuns them. The strange thing about this KO was that Cirkunov was dead. He was out cold, face down, arse up, unconscious. It was the most bizarre, weirdest KO I've ever seen in my life. So that's a concern. That's obviously a risk factor with betting him. We know the Walker's explosive and dangerous, particularly early, but we also know his takedown defense is garbage, and we know his ground game is non-existent. We know the Cirkunov's very strong grappler, very technical on the ground. So guys, that is basically it in a nutshell, right? This is MMA. No one can predict what will happen. Johnny Walker could come out, do some Anthony Pettis style cartwheel kick right on top of Cirkunov's nose, blow his head up and KO him dead in 10 seconds. But that doesn't mean Cirkunov's a bad bet. Based on the footage that I showed you of Johnny Walker, I believe Cirkunov is a good bet. But do not bet on Cirkunov if you're a baby. Do not bet on Cirkunov if you don't like losing. Because like I say, there's a good chance Walker KOs him. But I think the odds are way off on this fight, guys. I do think Cirkunov is a good bet. And that is all I've got to say. I'll stop repeating myself now. So that is it, guys. And I'm really sorry to get a bit emotional and passionate about that fight. But it fucks me off. It pisses me off when I see people that work in MMA media for a living that really should know this stuff. It pisses me off when they sell you total shit, total bullshit that isn't true. All anyone in MMA media has to do is take an hour out of their day to actually look into Johnny Walker's past fights, to see him give up easy takedowns against Makoviak, to see him look completely clueless on the ground against Makoviak, to see him look sloppy, reckless, and tired against Henrique de Silva. If you have Fight Pass and go watch his fight against Luis Henrique de Silva, a guy that wasn't good enough for the UFC, that got cut and released from the UFC. You know, de Silva was released from the UFC for losing 4 consecutive fights. Walker struggled against him, so that's why I get annoyed. When I see these MMA media guys hyping guys like Walker, it pisses me off, because there are much better guys in the light heavyweight division that deserve the praise and deserve the spotlight. Go and shine a light on a guy like Dominic Reyes, an absolute beast, an absolute monster, working his ass off with Joe Stevenson at the Cobra Kai gym, who's incredible at everything. Good cardio, you know, good wrestling, excellent takedown defense, solid ground game, superb striking. Dominic Reyes is the future of the light heavyweight division. Guys like Johnny Walker aren't. And MMA media should be shipping you that information and selling you on that, not on the bullshit that they're selling you with this guy just because he walks out to some strip of music and wears a fucking dicky bow at media day. Some bullshit. So anyway, guys, that is it for today's video. I am going to go out and have some nice food now and chill with the family, and I'll be back tomorrow with another 3 fights. There's only 3 to go. And remember, if you do want to see me do a bonus live stream video on Friday or Saturday where I will hunt for decent value prop bets for UFC 235, where I'll also answer all your questions in live chat, then hit the thumbs up button below. If every video that I put out this week gets 50 likes, I will do that live stream. And I'm also thinking about doing a cheeky little giveaway on this weekend's live stream video as well, where I'll give away some shit. So yeah, if you want that, please hit the thumbs up button below. Please subscribe to help the channel grow. Have a great night, guys, and I will see you tomorrow.
Too many thoughts on my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time then. I just been living online, my city don't show me no love, and that's fine. Fuck local radio stations, I got more plays than all of these rappers combined. I'm going again, I've been going in, I'm fed up with so many things, I gotta just let it all out. I'm talking about the shit they've been talking.